BI is next we will start with the architecture of Cognos. How is a Cognos basically? What is the basic architecture of Cognos? So Cognos is a multi-layer architecture where it has been separated into 3 tiers. As written that 3 tiers, different tiers of Cognos are web server layer, application layer, and the data layer. So we'll talk with this in detail, the architecture of Cognos. So in front of you now is a multi-layer architecture diagram of Cognos. As you can see, the first tier where all sides the web-based and the window-based components which has been used by the users, or the different users of the Cognos are using. Basically reside at this level on web-based and window-based interfaces. Then there comes the tier 1 where all the web servers have been installed. So all the web server will reside at tier 1 level. Then there comes the tier 2 where the application server component reside along with the content manager and the dispatcher. So at tier 2 we would be having content manager which is a part of the Cognos, and the application server, and then the dispatcher. Dispatcher is basically a service which is being used in order to route the request which has been made by the users, and as soon as they make some request, it has been passed on to the web server, it goes to the dispatcher, and dispatcher will decide how the request further needs to be routed. Then the dispatcher route the request to the next level, the architecture, that is the tier 3, that is the data where all the databases resides. For example, we might have Oracle, B2, Teradata, or anything. So all these databases reside at tier 3. So this is basically a single server architecture of Cognos. So but depending upon the requirement and depending upon the architecture we need to create, Cognos also supports multi-server architecture where, like if I take an example of production server or the critical applications where we may not take a chance so our application goes down. So in that case, we will go for the multi-server architecture where we would be having multiple servers. At tier 1 level, we would be having multiple web servers. Application level, we would be having multiple application servers and multiple dispatchers also. So in case one server goes down, then the user won't be affected and the application won't be affected, and the user will be able to work without any issues or without any basically the all application won't goes down. So in case one server goes down, then the request will be routed to another server which would be available. So this is these are all depending upon the architecture or the requirement or the criticality of the data in the application, how we will go for the architecture. So we Cognos support multi-server architecture or the multi-server installation. Now I'll just do a little bit about the components which will reside at all the tiers. So first of all, we take tier 1, that is the web server. At the web server level, all the gateways reside. So Cognos web server tier contains one or more gateways, as I already said. Cognos supports multiple server installation also. So Cognos tier 1 layer contains either one or it may contain more Cognos gateways. And the commonly used gateways are the CGI, next the IIS Internet Information Services, which has been this is a part of Microsoft Corporation. Then the Apache mode. So these are the most common gateways used at the tier 1. level of the Cognos architecture. Then comes the Cognos application application server. At the application tier also, application server also, we might be having one, or we may have more Cognos application servers. It's all depending upon the architecture and the requirement which we are working on. Next, the Cognos, each Cognos installation at tier 2 contains application tier components, which includes dispatcher, operator services, and request. So all these components are getting installed at the application tier level. So where all the dispatcher services, all the operator services, and the routing request will happen at the application server level. Then comes the content manager and which manage Cognos information. It is also been installed at the application server level. So content manager basically it manages how the Cognos information is getting stored and how the metadata, whatever we would be doing on the Cognos connection, how whatever the reports we would be creating, all the access which we are giving. So how that would be Cognos would know. So all this is being maintained by the Cognos content manager, and content manager will reside at application server level. And then comes tier 3, that is data content provider, the data layer. In the data tier contains content store, data store, or the metric store. So these are all the different databases which are available. All the databases which will be available in the tier 3 of the architecture. So this is the main little information or the basic information about all the tiers, which all components will reside at the different levels or the different tiers of the Cognos. So this is a simple architecture of the single server architecture of the Cognos which we have covered. So same thing if it goes with the multi-server installation of the multi-server architecture, then we can go ahead and have all this information. We can have multiple web servers, multiple application servers, and the databases in our multi-server architecture. Next comes the communication, how the communication channels are. The Cognos components basically communicate with each other. So basically Cognos components communicate with each other using additional application integrated with Cognos using BI bus. So whenever we are installing the Cognos, we are getting already in the Cognos installation or the Cognos component only we are receiving the BI bus. This is used by Cognos in order to communicate with each other. Like there are different components of Cognos. We say that there are report studio, Cognos connections, and there are different services, relation layer, log services and all. So how basically these all services, these all components of the Cognos are getting communicated with each other, how a particular component knows that what it actually needs to be done. So all these things being done using the BI bus. BI bus, what actually a BI bus is? BI bus is an open documented SOAP, simple object access protocol, that supports web definition language, web services definition language. So using this web services definition language, all these components of the Cognos communicate between each other. So it is only the BI bus which will help us, which will help Cognos to communicate internally between its components. So BI is basically not a software, it's a set of protocol that governs the communication with the Cognos components and Cognos services. So this is what basically the use of BI bus and how the communication actually occurs. Now comes the process enabled by the BI bus protocol includes that are basically the roles of the main process. These are just an example of few main activities which has been formed by BI bus, that is the messaging and dispatching. Whatever the messages are getting sent and the dispatching of the request, log message processing, database connection management, Microsoft.NET framework interactions, port usages, request flow processing, port pages. So these are all the things which has been enabled and being taken care by the BIS protocol during the communication or when we will be when the Cognos is in, when we are using the Cognos. So these are all the communication. This is how the communication between the Cognos components happens. So next comes our web-based and Windows interfaces. So these are uh, different components or the different studios, if we can say, that comes along with the Cognos. We with the Cognos in order to form the different reporting stuff. So we'll cover up these interfaces in briefly. First of all, I'll just tell you about the difference between the web-based and the window-based interfaces. So web-based interfaces are all interfaces for which a separate installation is not required. So web-based interfaces will work by using any of the web browser like Internet Explorer or the Chrome. So installations of the software or the suite is not required for these components. So if we have an installation of the Cognos on one system, then other users can use, if they are on a LAN, so they can use all these components or all these views of the Cognos without installation of the suite. Next on the window-based interfaces. Window-based interfaces are basically the modeling tools or the designing tool which installation on a particular system needs to be done. They can be used by using IE or Chrome. So these are the standalone software which needs to be installed for the authors or modeler or the designers to work upon. We'll cover up these brief in the coming slides. First of all, we take up the Cognos connection. But actually, the Cognos connection, which is one of the main component of the Cognos, without this knowing. And for the Cognos admin, so Cognos connection is basically the heart of the Cognos admin users. So, majorly, they would be working on the Cognos connection only. So Cognos connection is a web port. It's a web component of the Cognos. It's the same point of entry for querying, analyzing, and organizing data for creating reports, codes, cards, and email. So whatever we would be doing, first of all, we need to enter to the Cognos connection, where as soon as we provide credentials to enter into the Cognos application, we would be taking to Cognos will take us to a Cognos connection only, where all the options for creating reports, creating the scorecards, events, in the data. So everything has been available in Cognos connection only. So it is a single point of entry to the Cognos application or the world of the Cognos. So you use all the web-based components application through Cognos connection only. So whatever web-based components I have shown in the last slide, like the report studio, Cognos administration, query studio, analysis studio, email studio, and business insight. So all these studios are particular users can open from Cognos connection only. That's all depends upon the rights or the role of a particular user, for which all roles a particular user is authorized. So depending upon all those roles, all those studios will be available for that particular users. So in the Cognos, like I said, it's a web-based portal. So one of the features of the Cognos connection that for other business application, BI applications also, we can integrate it with the Cognos connection. So as soon as we enter the Cognos, we can integrate the URLs or the addresses of the other business applications, and we can run these applications through Cognos connection. We can link the other web browser interfaces in Cognos. Cognos connection uses the default configuration of your browser. So whatever the default configuration of your IE or Chrome, that is being used by the Cognos. So there sometimes it happens that we won't be able to open the Cognos URL is not getting open. So we need, in that case, we need to check for the security which has been the security settings of the eye, it won't be an issue of the Cognos. So it could be an issue of the eye settings. So also we need to take into consideration where we will be working on the Cognos. So it may be the issue of Cognos, or it could be the issue of the Internet Explorer setting or the firewall setting. So this is one of the case where sometimes Cognos application won't run, and we would be searching out for the issues in Cognos, but it could be the issue of the firewall or the proxy settings or the cache settings, so that we need to check for the I setting, because the Cognos is using the default settings of your browser. It does not require use of Java, ActiveX or plugins, and it does not install it. So we need not to install any plugins in order to access the Cognos application. In addition to the section for viewing data and creating object, Cognos connection also includes public folders, total pages, unit preferences, and my folders. So whatever the reports you would be creating, and whatever the things which should be available to the public and your personal folders, all these are available in Cognos connections. In the next slide, I will show you basic view of Cognos connection, how it looks like, and where all these comments resides in Cognos. Whatever we have talked about the Cognos connections, where all these studios reside, and where all these public folders, my folders, and user preferences are there. So I will show you in brief going to Cognos. So here's a screen of Cognos where you can see here is the login ID. So with which user you are logged in. So it will be shown in here. Here you are having option to log off and log on to the Cognos application. Then there are, if you can see, the two portal pages that that is the public folder and the my folder. So public folder, you would be having all the public, all the folders, all the reports, all the packages which will be available to the whole world or the public. And in the my folder, all the stuffs, all the reports, all packages which has been created by that particular logged in users will be available in my folder. Now here you can see the launch button at the upper right corner. So in the launch button, if it's not an interactive, it's just a screenshot. So I will be able to show you at the moment. I won't be able to show you the list of the studios available to that particular user. But yes, in this launch button, if you click on this launch button, you will be available with all these web-based interfaces like Cognos Administration, Query Studio, Report Studio, Analysis, and Image Studio and Business Insights. So you can access any of the studio depending upon the requirement, depending upon the type of report you need to build. You can choose any of the studio through this launch button. Then also you would be having that Cognos Administration there inside this launch button, and you can that would be the main component of the Cognos which is being used by the Cognos administrator, where all the admin related tasks like getting roles, users, providing access, and all these stuff will be used or can be done by using the Cognos administration part component. So this is a basic overview of Cognos connection, how it basically looks like. Now we go to the second component of the Cognos, second web-based component, that is Cognos administration. So Cognos administration is a central management interface that contains the administrative tasks for Cognos. It provides easy access to all management of the Cognos environment and is accessible through Cognos section. So it's basically the central management system where all the admin related tasks can be handled, like the performance of the application, creating rules, creating users, providing access, what all activities are currently running on Cognos application, what would be the past activities, what was the status of the past activities, what is the status of the coming activities. So all these things can be handled and can be view through this Cognos administration portal. So if we talk about the Cognos administration, it is basically divided into three categories, three sections. First is the status, the security, and then the configuration. So in the status bar, use the link in the sections to monitor activities, server status, and server matrices, and some other system settings. So in status, we can view what is the current status of all the activities which are getting which are currently running on the Cognos, what all reports, what all other applications or anything which is currently running, we can view through this status section. All what are the present activities, what are the present schedules, what are the past schedules, what are the new schedules. So all these things we can view through the status section of the Cognos administration. I will also show you in the next slide how Cognos administration screen looks like, and this is just a simple information what all these sections are and what exactly we can perform admin related activities from which section, what all we perform. So second comes the security. In the security, use these links in the sections to define users, group, and role for security purposes. So in order to do the user management of our Cognos, depending upon the licenses we will be having, we are creating the groups and the roles and assigning the users depending upon their roles in order to effectively use the licenses available to us. So all these things are getting done through security section. Then comes the configuration. The Cognos configuration things is being used to create the data sources, like the database connection, like how the Cognos will communicate with different databases. So this is the section where we will be creating the VSNs through which Cognos will be able to recognize to which databases the data needs to be pulled out. So all the data connections with databases needs to be created in the configurations. Along with this, we can take this this configuration tab is being used to add the printers, set styles, manage portlets and layouts, then start and stop of the services, and system settings can be changed through this configuration section of the Cognos administration. Along with this, there is a functionality function available in Cognos in order to take the exports and import of the Cognos components of the reports, whatever we are creating. So by using this configuration tab, we can perform all these activities. Next on the Cognos administration. So basically a simple screen of the Cognos administration where as I've already shown you the three tabs, status, security and configuration. Rest of the tabs will cover in coming slides, coming days, but these are the main three tabs. As I've shown you in the status, we can see what are the past activities, current activities, upcoming activities, how exactly the system is performing, the coming schedules. So all these things can be seen from this Cognos administration screen. Next comes the security also. So this is basically a view of Cognos admin, how it looks like. Next comes our different web studios. One is the Query Studio. Query Studio is basically a studio of the Cognos which is being used by the business users who are not professional report designers. So Query Studio is basically a simple tool which is made available to the business user in order to perform the ad hoc reporting. So depending upon the available components, business users can create their own reports, own simple reports which won't be having much functionality, but it's just a pulling out of data, and the data is getting pulled out depending upon the models which has been created by the modelers and made available to the business users. So depending upon those models, all the business functionalities and logics are already built. So by making use of these models, business users can create their own ad hoc reports. Okay, sorry, I'll try to. So I was saying regarding the Query Studio that Studio is basically the tool which is being in the Studio is basically for the non-professional or the business users who are not professional also of the report. So Query Studio is being made available to business users who are having a bit of common knowledge or no training to those users, and they can create their own ad hoc reports depending upon the model available, which has been created by the those modelers, and all the business logics and everything has already been built in the model, which has been used by the business users to create their ad hoc reporting. Now next is the Report Studio. We will cover all these things, and we might not in this. This is not the agenda to cover them in detail. This is just to let you know regarding what all is there on the Cognos connections, which has been created, because at sometimes Cognos admin also needs to work on these components, why they're not working or what could be the issue. So one Cognos admin must be aware of all these things. So covering up these in just brief, we won't be covering them in details. So covering up them in details is a separate way. These are all separate modules in itself. So just an idea I'm giving about these components. So next comes the Cognos Report Studio. Report Studio is basically a studio which is basically for the professional authors, where all standard reports or the templates are getting created by the professional report authors. So Report Studio lets report author create, edit, and distribute a wide range of professional reports. And we can also define the corporate templates and the corporate standard reports and modify them in the report studio. So in the Report Studio, we can also use the reports which has been created. Suppose someone has created some reports in Analysis Studio and the Query Studio, we can also use these reports in Report Studio and modify them as per the need. Next, Analysis Studio. Analysis Studio users can explore, analyze, and compare their dimensional data. So Analysis Studio provides access to dimensional OLAP and dimensional model relational data sources. In order to perform multi-dimensional analysis, we will be using Analysis Studio, where a user can analyze the data. Just a moment. Sure, Ashwin, I will help you regarding regarding the questions, but let's first complete this complete the topics, session topics, and then we'll take up all the questions. So all these studios comes under development. All these components don't come under development. There are different use of all these components. So like Analysis Studio, it's not a development tool. It's Analysis Studio is a studio which is being used to analyze the report, used to analyze the data. But actually the thing, how the data is coming, the Analysis Studio is a separate story. That is, we are having another web window-based components, that is a transformer, which I will cover in coming slides. So the output of the transformer, we will be having cube reports. So whatever the cube reports is getting built, that cube report is having the data, and that cube report we are opening using Analysis Studio, and the data which is available in that cube report, that is getting using Analysis Studio to analysis. So Analysis Studio is not a development tool. It's basically a studio which is being used to analysis the data across the dimensions of different dimensions. Yes, Report Studio is development tool create professional reports. Query Studio is not a development, it's basically a doc reporting tool which is being used by the users to get their ad hoc reports. Suppose they just need the report for once or twice, so they are just dragging and dropping of the columns which are required and creating the reports. Your question was that how to migrate the report from development environment to test environment. That I'll cover up in the question and answer section. So it might be not useful for other at the moment, but yes, I'll cover this, but after the session. Next, cover the Event Studio and the Metrics Studio. Event Studio is basically a studio which will help us in creating the events, or depending upon the conditions, or the we need to send mails to the users, failure or the success of the report. So depending upon certain triggers, certain rules, we can create rules and create different events. So in the Event Studio, we can Event Studio, you can set up agents to monitor your data and perform tasks when business events or exceptional conditions occur in your data. So depending upon the conditions which we have created, we can trigger different events. Next comes the Metrics Studio. So in Metrics Studio, you can create and deliver customized scorecarding environment and monitoring and analyzing metrics throughout your organization. So in order to create scorecard environment, scorecarding applications, we are using Metrics Studio. We can monitor, analyze, and reports on time critical information by using scorecard based on cross functional matrices. So for the Metrics Studio, it's basically a all-in-all separate component of the Cognos, and for the metrics designers, we are having separate licenses. So with the basic suite of the Cognos, Metrics Studio also will not come. So we need to have separate licenses for Metrics Studio and Metrics Designer. So this is also one of the biggest component of Cognos. Then the window-based components. So window-based components are basically the components which won't be accessible by using the browsers, i.e. or Chrome. So these are the standalone softwares which we need to install on to a particular user's machines in order to make use of these components. So first of all, majorly I'll cover Framework Manager and Data Manager. So first is the Framework Manager. I'll just brief you about this, what exactly the use of Framework Manager. Framework Manager in the Cognos model is a modeling tool for taking and managing business-related metadata for the use in analysis and reporting. So it seems basically we can call Framework Manager as an intermediate between the database and the Cognos users or the Cognos author. So how a particular user or the Cognos report author knows what exactly is available in the database, how the joins are there, basically the business rules or business cardinalities exist between the different tables. So Framework Manager is a model tools where we will be extracting or we will be importing the databases, different databases, and providing all the business logics and creating a model. And then we will be publishing all these models to the report author to perform their tasks and create their professional reports. So Framework is basically an intermediate tool between users and between database and the report authors to create their reports. So framework models which has been created in Framework Manager are used by, can be used in Cognos Query Studio, Report Studio, and your transformer in order to design the cube reports and the professional author reports. So Framework Managers, what we can say is that it's a metadata is published for you in the framework. We can publish the metadata used by reporting tools as a package, providing a single and integrated business view of any number of heterogeneous data sources. So by using framework manager, we can have a number of data sources and one models, and the data of the number of data sources we can make available in the particular framework model, and then make it available to the business users. And next comes the transformer. So Cognos transformer is a modeling tool used to create power cubes for the use of Cognos. Secure power cubes are not compatible with Cognos system. So transformer is basically a window-based tool, window-based component which has been used in order to define the design of cube reports, where users would be, or the business is doing their multi-dimension analysis. So we will be defining how a particular dimension is, we can slice and dice in order to perform the dimensions. In order to perform the analysis, we will be defining the design of the cube reports in transformer, and the output of these cube reports, whenever we will be running these cube reports, then the output is being analyzed by the users by using Analysis Studio. So whatever the output of the transformer reports, we will be making use of Analysis Studio to analyze our data. Map Manager administration modelers use the window utility in Map Manager to import maps and update labels for maps in Report Studio. So this utility is basically, Map Manager is being used to import different maps, and suppose if we need to use maps in our reports, these reports on the Map Manager comes into picture, which we use. It's available in Cognos. So I think we are running out of time for today. So we'll cover up rest of the topics in the coming session. But if we are having any questions, we can do that. And I'm already available with one question.